So, very warm welcome to our talk today. I would like to thank Workpath for the possibility in this really beautiful location here. Our title today, we want to give you first-hand insights about the journey that we have made together, SKIDATA and BearingPoint, for the last almost 2 years. So you get first-hand insights about the transformation that we did. Who are we?
Should I start? Okay, I'll just walk over here so we have a bit of flexibility. Hello everyone, my name is Andrea. I'm here on behalf of SKIDATA. I'm the Talent and Development Manager there. And I have been part of this OKR transformation almost nearly from the beginning. In partnership together with the OKR lead, I was responsible to support the rollout and also managing the OKR coach community.
Yeah, so very welcome. Sebastian, my name. I work for the company called BearingPoint as an agile coach, as a transformation coach, and of course as an OKR coach. Yeah, done.
Yeah, my name is Andy. I'm also working for BearingPoint. I'm partner there and firmly responsible for our agile advisory department. Yeah, also doing OKR stuff since more than 3 years now. And yeah, I think that's no more to say. Maybe some words about our companies. I don't know if you know SKIDATA. Andrea, maybe you want to share some insights.
I actually throw the question back. Maybe a quick raise of hands. Who knows what SKIDATA does? Okay, let me change that in the next half a minute. So who of you likes to go skiing or snowboarding? Yes, okay. Anyone that has parked a car in a parking garage? Okay, and third question, anyone that has been to a stadium like Allianz Arena? Okay, not so many. Well, all of you have definitely been in touch with our products because that's what we do. We manage access. We support our customers in access and revenue management so they can take care of the visitor experience there. And the next time, I guarantee you, when you will look at the cash machines or the turnstiles at skiing and the ski resorts, you will see our name and you will never forget who we are.
Good. And some words about BearingPoint. BearingPoint is a management and technology consultancy with about 4,500 people. And one team that Sebastian and me represent is called Agile Advisory. So we see ourselves as a full-service Agile coaching provider. So we focus on Agile transformation, Agile coaching, organizational development, change management. And in the field of OKR transformations, we're working together with Workpath since more than, about 3 years now, actually. So I can remember when we started about 3 years ago in the first quarterly also here. Yeah. And yeah, we are combining different clients in our OKR journey. SKIDATA is one of them, and we're very proud that we are a partner of SKIDATA. And yeah, that's what we actually want to tell you today. So what you will hear is, as I've said, really first-hand insights about the journey, how we started, the learnings especially that we have taken, and also the highlights that we have taken through this journey. If you have questions, we have plenty of time, hopefully after the talk. So we have a Q&A session planned there. So I would ask you then to ask the questions then afterwards. We're happy to answer them. I want to start first with an overview about the journey. As you can see, we started actually in the fourth quarter of 2020. So in November, December in 2020, we started the first preparations and the first talks about how we can introduce OKRs. And currently we are in the 5th cycle. And each cycle was full of learnings, full of highlights. And that's what you will hear in the next couple of minutes. But let me first start with some of the reasons why SKIDATA decided to start with OKRs. Yeah? SKIDATA's fast global growth demanded some new ways of addressing customer requirements and value creation. And having transformed regional operations and the central functions, which were both dependent on the same core processes, that the company challenged or had the challenge with really slow time to market, but also it was pretty high effort to integrate the customer feedback in the solutions. And furthermore, the formerly used internal goal process, goal setting process, didn't really had the desired impact on the business performance. And so we were looking for a solution, how to overcome that. And the idea was born to use OKR for that. But there was actually one prerequisite that needed to be solved first. Andrea, may you want to share about that?
Happy to. And that was the formal goal setting process, as Andy was just mentioning. So for a really long time, and that has served SKIDATA well, we had this very typical individual setting of targets by the start of the year, and by the end of the year, depending on the achievement, you would get a bonus. So we had targets connected to money. And in 2020, roughly, we decided for a majority of the employees to turn this target variable into part of the fixed salary. And individual goals were not the must anymore, essentially, to get an additional bonus. And that paved the way and allowed a bit for team goals, that allowed for more daring goals, goals that you needed courage for, that you might also fail. And that was before BearingPoint came in, roughly a year before that we did that, step by step throughout the company, and that paved the way to find something new, which was then OKR.
Yeah, and then we started actually in the fourth quarter of 2020. The first things that we did was we had a couple of sessions with the global leadership on the board, and our first touch point was then having a keynote in front of the global leadership team. And the idea of this keynote was to really give the management team an impression how OKRs, what impact it could have on the business performance. Yeah, and then we had also several sessions, also with the CEO, with Dave Lucan, and to get also his expectations and also the key success factors that he sees when we are using OKRs. And regarding enablement, the first touch point was then also with the leadership team. So we had a one-day training together with the leadership team to explain the basics, I would say, for OKRs. And then we started actually then in January 2021 with the program lead and one member of the global leadership team to design the OKR process, to design how we want to do the rollout, how we want to do the enablement. That was actually the starting point. Yeah, we conducted then the first, I think in February it was a masterclass for the pilot area. So we selected an area where we want to start, and this pilot area was a department that was already used to work in an iterative, in an agile way. So it was the technology department there, and so the mindset probably was already the right one that you need when you start with OKRs. Yeah. Actually, after the masterclass, we started then with the drafting. So in the first cycle, 9 teams were involved, so not a big number, but that was for us the perfect size to start. But right at the beginning already, as I've said, we faced some challenges, and Sebastian and Andrea will tell you more about that.
As you heard, we had a plan. We had a pretty good plan, a very concrete plan. We knew exactly by the end of the year, OKRs would be rolled out to the company. Everyone would live and love OKRs, and it would change completely the way we work. And that was not the case. So the plan was, okay, we had this pilot that we started with. We did that, but we didn't really work with it as a pilot. We didn't ask the questions in the end, like, hey, does it work for us? Hey, should we change those things? I mean, don't get me wrong, there was ideas. We weren't completely blind. But those ideas, we didn't use them and we didn't change them. We continued straight the way into the second cycle as we have planned before the first cycle.
So yeah, and that's an important outcome here. One would wonder about the obvious thing, but change itself is an agile process. So having a perfect project plan with a dedicated outcome at a specific time is probably not going to work.
So, as Andrea and Sebastian mentioned, we had a plan. We had really clearly when each region, each department will be part of the OKR process. So the second cycle, the focus was there to extend the pilot or extend the reach of OKRs. And especially in the second cycle, what we concentrated was that we want to train more and more people. And one important thing for SKIDATA was that the training shouldn't just happen by us external consultants. No, right from the beginning, they wanted to have a train-the-trainer concept, and we set it up. The master classes that were conducted already in the second cycle were done together. One coach of our side and Andrea from SKIDATA, and this was very important because it empowered SKIDATA already right at the beginning that they have the possibility really to train their own people. And with the end of in the preparations for the second cycle, we had now included about 20 teams. And afterwards, after the draftings, a huge alignment and so on. And even though we had about 1/3 of the whole company now trained working with OKRs, we still faced again some challenges. And again, Andrea and Sebastian, may you share that?
Thank you. So one of the first challenges was that the original process owner has left the company. And that role of this OKR process owner was then split up among two people. One was the OKR lead and the other one was me. And I was the senior, or I'm still the senior OKR coach, taking care and managing and building up this OKR coach community. So as Andrea said, we've done quite some enablement for those coaches because we realized pretty quickly those coaches, they have a lot of power. At this point, they were the ones that are the most motivated, the most knowledgeable, and in this particular cycle, they were the ones that carried OKRs into the organization. They were the ones training those new teams onboarding on this rollout in what OKR actually is. And yeah, we did the classes, we did the training, we had an OKR coach community built up, which is still alive and breathing today. And we had some things that we haven't seen. And the coaches, as knowledgeable and motivated as they were challenging us. They were asking, well, what is the coach role actually? And I mean, we had a great definition. We had worked it out with BearingPoint, but we forgot to apply it to the SKIDATA context. So it's not really forgetting, we realized it, that we need to apply it more strictly there. Understand what it is it means for SKIDATA. And then the coaches were also the ones asking a lot of other questions.
Yeah, so that's actually the thing if you have smart people. And as you can see, SKIDATA has a lot of smart employees. The problem there is they start to ask smart questions. And that's what they actually did. They came up with the questions, what the hell are we anyway doing this? Who is doing what here? What are we doing? So all these things that are really important questions. And it's not that they have not been answered before and it hasn't been talked about, but not in a specific SKIDATA context. And also this changes over time, so these questions have to be answered again and again. And there was a process owner this time, but that guy was really filled up with work and he did not have the right amount of time to answer these questions properly. So that had to be changed.
So actually this was then really the hard work and for the preparations for the third cycle. So we really brought in, I would call it the SKIDATA flavor to the OKR process. Yeah. So besides extending again the reach, so we added some additional regions like the LATAM, the EMEA, and the Central Europe region. We really concentrated, the PLO, the program lead office, and then the coach community really concentrated on receiving the feedback, yeah, really gathering the feedback from the retrospectives and throughout from the people, and incorporate that into the new OKR process, I would say, and then into the cycle. So, for example, that you can imagine what we did. Yeah, we did more communication. So, for example, we generated a one-pager describing, and on a one-page, so to say, what the OKR process is really all about on the SKIDATA flavor, so to say. Yeah. Then we also, and you might have seen it in the timeline, we changed the length of the cycle. We started with a 3-month cycle. We changed to a 4-month cycle because it better fitted to the way how SKIDATA acted and how they did their business, so to say. And we also gave the coaches more input so that they could give more guidance. Probably too much, but that is again what you will share.
The slide spoiled it already. We did something that we tried to do not with OKRs, and that is we lost focus. So there were so many construction sites, as we like to say in German, that we started up there, that we just lost focus. We were trying to answer all these questions, and we did answer a lot of questions. We created a role description for the coaches, a role description for the program lead office, the team leads. We had this one pager. We defined clearly what kind of events and what impact they should have. And it was so much that we answered that we didn't really manage to carry it into the organization. Like, it didn't get through. It was there. And then people would still ask this question. You're like, yeah, but it's there, and they still wouldn't realize it. So it was just a little bit too much of everything.
Yeah. So simple is beautiful. We all know that. But simplifying something comes with the price. It takes time, it takes effort to simplify things. And by doing really a lot of stuff at the same time without reflecting, you actually start to overcomplicate things. And that is something that caused resistance then within the company, of course, because everything got really complicated and complex. And again, that's something that had to be changed.
So that was actually then what we concentrated in the fourth cycle. Yeah. So on the one hand, we saw much more commitment also from the leadership team. Yeah. So the OKR coaches got more dedicated time also to work on the process and yeah, getting the process better. And what also helped, especially in the fourth cycle, that was this cycle was characterized by that we introduced Workpath there. Yeah. So at that time, the rollout was more or less finalized. So all the regions were then on board. And we saw that the tool, we used an Excel tool before, yeah, that didn't fit the requirements anymore. And that was Workpath was there then the perfect tool to be used, and it really brought a boost, I would say, to the further process. Yeah. And actually, what we then from the coach side, together with the program lead office, did was that we focused more on really, again, incorporating the feedback, getting things done, so to say. And what we used there, we also started in the program lead office to use change OKRs. So probably had or should have used it before, but that was then the time where we used it. And this also helped to make the work that we do in the program lead office more visible and also more measurable. Yeah.
So what happened in this cycle, it was really characterized by many things at the same time, many balls in the air that we wanted to juggle. And with having this like commitment in this previous cycle, it brought a lot of attention to OKR. So a lot of people were like, oh, okay, but what does it mean for me? And we really had different directions going there. So there was this one thing where we really hit this change topic of resistance. So we had rolled out now OKRs all over the company, and we also had regions that were super busy in the winter because they were more focused on mountain business, and they were just bringing it all back to old patterns. OKRs was on top. Yes, you have a question?
Good question. I would really like to answer that. I think Andrea could even do it better than me. But I guess it would be better if we can rephrase the question at the end of the session, because then we have it also for the people online, so they can also listen to the question. And we do that at the end. Fine.
That's a great question. Yeah, thank you.
So she now has the chance to think about the answer. It's perfect.
No problem. I have it. It's so good. So what happened, coming back to these regions that were in mountain business and they were falling back into these old patterns. They considered OKRs on top. OKRs, what is the value that they add, and all of these things. And they tried to integrate OKRs and what they were doing. And in the end, it was kind of hijacking the whole value that we tried to add. And that is something where they really went into old patterns. But then there was others that actually started to realize, okay, let's break away from this OKR theory. We understand the value because we've defined that out in the previous cycle. And we just try to integrate it in what we are doing, and it became more routine. And they understood, okay, as long as we make sure that we add this value that we want for this company, we can integrate it in the way we want. And the third one that we had to juggle at the same time was that, as you saw, we didn't manage to roll it out the year before, so we still had some regions to roll it out to. And we had those last parts of the company onboarding, and there was something happening that is what we famously call the learning organization. So they were learning from the mistakes and the results that we already had from the previous cycle. So those new regional OKR leads or the business unit OKR lead that was joining in, they instantly were like, okay, the coaches that should coach teams that they're not part of, that they're not team managers of. The teams that are building, they should not be according to organizational structure. They should be around the topic or something, a value we try to add. So we had OKR teams around customer experience, around employee experience, and so on. So they were instantly learning. And because we were also defining out this coach role now, we had coaches that were trained now in this cycle, and they instantly know, okay, this is the expectation that people have to me, and I can decide if I'm able to live up to that or not. And we had coaches clearly saying, no, I cannot deliver that quality, and that was cool, that was fine, that was something we could work with. So the gold digger nugget, or what you see there, is if you just keep digging, at some point there will be for sure gold.
Yeah. And the gold is a simple thing. Simple is beautiful. We had that before. So how did we try to simplify things? You know, if you have like really a lot of teams and they all need to be aligned, it's a bunch of meetings. It's a hell of meetings. So if you bring them all together and try them and have these really huge alignment meetings, people were questioning if this is useful and things like this. Yeah. So we came up with the idea, say, let's change and trust the people, actually. And instead of sending them huge meetings, we go over to the point that we say we have a phase, so we have an alignment phase. And at the end, we want to have a certain outcome. So you guys need to be aligned at the end of this phase so that we can actually start to work. And so they started to do kind of pre-alignment and then managed themselves to come up with a plan how the alignment was done, and that actually worked out quite nicely. Not perfect, but quite nicely. On the other side, from the tooling side, we had really a lot of really huge whiteboards. Yeah, you all know the Smaro boards. They really get huge and huger. So we stopped that. We had some tools to use, and we reduced all that to smaller boards and one tool. Yeah. So we actually used Workpath for pre-alignment, for check-ins, for reviews. Yeah. So kind of like almost one tool to rule them all.
Yeah. Currently, we are now in the fifth cycle, as I've mentioned at the beginning. What we really see is that OKR is now more and more established in the company, and I think people getting more and more into routine, and really, as Sebastian also mentioned, the self-organization really works now there, yeah, better and better. It's clear that there's still a journey, yeah. So there are still some challenges that we need to tackle, yeah. And some of the things we want to share now.
Thank you. So this is where we are right now. We are right in the middle of the fifth cycle. And you see that every cycle, it had its challenges, but it also had quite its learnings. So we see things paying off finally. We have this routine of cycle preparation that allows the team to self-organize. So now we just send out the 2 deadlines that they need to know, and that's it. They run with it. We have more and more positive feedback about, okay, yeah, slightly teams are finally getting the hang of key results and objectives and how they can actually measure their objective and what is the right measurement and all of that. And we get more and more of this positive feedback. And on top of that, we have also now the CEO stepping into the program lead office as a lead, and joining those meetings, clearly formulating those expectations. And it was, I mean, we knew that the leadership wanted it, but it made it much more tangible, because the program lead office then, together with the CEO and the leadership team, they can now, there is like this stronger expectation and stronger knowing, okay, where we're going. And now this whole cycle is really together with the coaches, and here we come back to the power of the coaches also to get into quality. So now it's really about the nitty-gritty parts.
So yeah, where we're going now to. So until now, most of the teams drafted along the organizational structure. That causes a lot of difficulties, let's say, yeah? Because you gotta align a lot. If you don't follow your value streams and things, and you don't form, because it's one of the beauties of OKRs that you can actually build teams around value, wherever it may be located. So upcoming now, teams will be free to form themselves along value. And yeah, we're gonna see where that leads.
So this was short insights about the last fifth cycle, or 5 cycles, yeah. And we want to end our talk with we call it 3 superpowers, yeah. Things that we have seen, that we have observed, that really bring benefit to the organization by using OKRs.
Yeah, so we had that a couple of times already, but to me, it's one of the most valuable outcomes of not only OKRs, but every agile process. In the end, you work in cycles, and you can look back and you can repeat and learn from the last cycle and do it better the next time. And I used to work with a lot of companies now, and also at SKIDATA. You've seen it now through all the slides. A lot of shit happened, and that was taken, and there was a learning out of it, and it was done better the next cycle. And that's, to me, is one of the greatest values of them all. So.
And then we also have transparency. It's a big word, pretty picture, but transparency, what it really means for SKIDATA, it was more about that we had to visualize our progress. And I mean, try to ask yourself in your own company, like, can you visualize on a daily or weekly or at least bi-weekly basis the impact that you have with your daily work on your customers or on your colleagues and all of that? And that is a challenge. And with this visualization and this transparency there, we see what progress is made and also what progress is not made. We can see who is aligned and who is contributing to one another, and we can see who is not. And that kind of transparency is triggering discussions now that really get down to what we're actually doing in this company and why we're doing it. Thank you. And now my favorite superpower, it's the cross-team innovation. So SKIDATA loves to be innovative and trying new things. And with what I was already mentioned with the OKRs, that you can just build up teams around the values you want to create, no matter where they are. You're so independent of the organizational structure, and we can really see some things forming there. So, for example, I think it was around 2nd or 3rd cycle, we had 2 employees that were really all about sustainability and corporate social responsibility, and they were able to bring in an OKR. And now we have an initiative that came out of that, which already includes 20 people now. So, and that is not necessarily related to their daily work, right? So they were really coming together through this framework, and that is what OKR allows you also to do in that sense. And a second one, and I want to mention that because I'm as talent and development manager, I'm tripping on that one. It's that our apprentices are actually also came together, and they were also trained in OKRs, and they got a coach, and now they have their own OKR where they try to raise their visibility within the company so that they would find by the end of their apprenticeship a team that fits to them. And that is really cool because it just puts them in charge of their own development, and that is something that they figured out for themselves, and it's really empowering. And I think that's a nice example of innovation as well.
So now we are at the end. Yeah. If you're interested in more details, you can also download on Workpath and on our homepage the case study that was published recently. But now we are open for questions. So maybe we take the first one.
Just in case that's the first question that come up, and if you wonder, yeah, we've been at the Oktoberfest yesterday. So.
maybe can you repeat your question that you had?
I don't have one. I'm just, if someone has one.
Yeah,
That was a question.
there was a question in the talk.
Actually, after your super interesting presentation, I have 3 now, but yeah.
We have the time.
They will hate me, so I just repeat the first. Where did this over-engineering and loss of focus coming from? Where was this coming from? Was it coming from too much process from the coaching side, or was it coming from more from the employee side, having too many targets they wanted to accomplish, or too many initiatives? Where was this coming from?
I will leave this to Andrea so she can blame me, actually.
Yes, it was all BearingPoint. I would also encourage you to ask all your questions to my colleague. I'm sure he has different answers at some points. So it's a good question. So I think it was a combination of things. In this cycle, what we experienced was we had also more resources to take care of the process. We had this program lead office building up. We had a very present process owner at this point. And so we had resources to answer these questions because we didn't the cycle before. So it was just this high motivation to take care of this and to fix things. And then at the same time, because there was these resources also from the coaches that were carrying the feedback from the teams to us, we also understood, okay, where were the topics? And you have to imagine some people at this point, some parts of the business, they were already in the OKR process for like several months. So their issues or their challenges, they were very detailed now. They were very part of their, it wasn't about like what's an OKR. It was very much about how does it fit with the roadmap and so on. So it was such a different level of questions that we also had to answer, combined with resources, and that weren't maybe not enough for the answers we tried to carry out. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
But I think it was the answer, because before that, probably we got the feedback that it was more too generic. Yeah, as I've mentioned, the SKIDATA flavor was missing, and probably we thought this is now the answer to give more guidance. Yeah, and probably this was too much. Yeah, and that's why we thought, oh, in a reflection, I think it was too over engineering. Yeah.
The audio guy told us to put the mic here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just handing over.
Are you finished with your questions? Are your questions answered? Okay, one for the coffee. First, Andreas and Sebastian, thank you very much for taking us on this inspiring learning journey. It's really insightful, and especially talking about what has not worked, because that's the learning part. And what we all see is it's all about starting and then learning. So thanks for that. And I would have one question. So if you would ask your CEO today, what was his biggest highlight from the last year about this journey? The first question. And the second question is, if you would pick one customer and ask him what has changed for him in the last year, what would this be?
Oh. Those are very good questions. I'm not sure I'm daring to speak on behalf of our CEO, but I need to think about that.
He's going to see the record.
Yeah.
We can talk about it at the coffee. So
yeah, let me think about that so I actually give a good answer. Yeah, but I'll keep those questions in mind. Thank you.
And about the product?
Huh?
The customer? The
customer? No, I also need to think about that. I have a couple in mind, but I don't want to make it too HR based because I have my HR customers in mind. But yeah, maybe it's maybe we find also someone else. Oh.
Cool. So yeah, hello from my side, and also for me, thank you for this very comprehensive and very well presented journey. Thank you. I have a question that goes more into the employee level. So you said, I think it was in the third or fourth cycle that people really saw the value behind it, and so can you tell us what exactly people saw and experienced? Maybe they had some aha moments also. You can share some of that.
Mm-hmm.
I know, you keep going. You do
Okay.
that perfectly.
All right. So yes, thank you. So the feedback that we got for one was that people really enjoyed the fact that they were coming together and discussing and setting their own goals. So it was really this lovely word of empowerment that was coming out of it. It was also this whole thing about OKRs not just being bottom up and not just being top down. It was coming together, right? It's all in the alignment is there that you have this strategic view, but also, which is obviously also a task for the leadership, and then also this expertise that was in the teams that came together. So that was a source of challenges, but it was also a source of added value for sure, and still is. And then the cycles that kept repeating, this whole learning. And I think the biggest value that I mean, that's probably a bit HR biased. That's why I encourage to ask also my colleague here. The biggest learning there is this that we allow ourselves to learn constantly. It was like, yeah, okay, that didn't work out, but it brought this culture of like, whatever, we'll figure it out next time and we'll do it better. So that was for sure a value there as well for the employees.
I have a question regarding the alignment. Thank you for mentioning that topic. How many different management levels do you have, and how much time do you allow for this alignment between these different levels?
Currently 3. So there are organizational OKRs, then there is kind of first level, and then there are teams. And they pay into the different levels. But there are a lot of teams. So that's where all the alignment overdoing comes from, because there are really a lot of teams.
And in terms of the preparation time, say, I know you have a 4-month cycle, how long do you start in advance to allow these teams to generate their OKRs and align with each other between those?
I think now it's 4 weeks. So we had 6 weeks and now we shortened it. We've got a bit more efficient. So it's roughly 2-3 weeks of drafting and then 2 weeks of alignment.
Okay, thank you very much.
No, I'm happy with the 4 weeks because people already start discussing and aligning also with the draftings. So if you ask our CEO, it should be 2 weeks. Yeah. So yeah, for sure we might get a bit more efficient, even more over time. But right now we're good on that.
I have 2 questions. One is with regards to your change architecture. You could give a little insight if you had a specific change communication design or work stream. Like, what did you do in order to prepare the whole organization upfront and during the process? And the second question is with regards to the coaches. How many did you have? Like your 1,500 people. So how did you organize that?
Maybe I'll leave the change architecture to you.
I think, I mean, we mentioned that, Sebastian, you mentioned that we got a lot of questions, and the thing is, we first started with communication, but I think again, to look back, it was probably too generic at the beginning. Yeah. So why did you start? I mean, we all know reasons why companies start with OKRs, and we took that. Yeah. And probably that is the learning that we've got. I think that we need to integrate more why SKIDATA starts with OKRs. So, and this was, I think, in the third cycle, the learning that we really start and better communicating. What is the reason? What are the benefits? We generated also things like the one page, which I mentioned, yeah, so that it's clearer for the people what's in for them, why we're doing that, what also the management is expecting, and that helped definitely then, I think, to get a better understanding for all of the people. Yeah.
And regarding the coaches, we roughly have 70 coaches at the moment. So depends a bit on the regions and the business units. Most of our coaches come from the development unit. And then depending on the regions, the regions went straightly into these, we call it virtual OKR teams. So teams that were independent of the organizational structure. And depending on that, we would train also new coaches.
Thank you. And can you also say like how much percentage of time, of their work time was dedicated to this coach role? Like, because he said he had to adjust it, no?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm citing our role definition right now. I think it was 3 days per cycle plus 3 days of general training that they had when they started out. in the reality, I would also suggest to go to my colleague because he's a coach. So we'll see how it is. It depends very much on how many teams you were coaching also. And yeah.
But I think here again,
you.
this was, I think, a learning, because right at the beginning, probably it was more seen that this coach role is more something on the top. Yeah. So you need to do it on your additional job. I mean, it's not, we all know that OKR coach is not a full-time job, but it takes time. And I think that is what the management needs to recognize, yeah, that if you just do it on the top, it will not happen. So, but maybe from your side, maybe what do you think, how much time when you think about the cycling? Sorry, yeah, right.
Well, am I audible? Yeah, great. Usually, well, as Andrea already mentioned, in the beginning, it's obviously more time that you need to spend. And so it was really, yeah, at least 3 days plus the trainings. And now it's down to, I'd say, roughly a day per month, if any. So you have to keep in mind the idea. You need to do the drafting, which is usually the part that usually eats up most of the time, the preparation for the drafting and the drafting itself. And then it's basically just the coach role, making sure that things go well, arrange touch points with the affected team leads or the teams that you need to deal with. And yeah, it's basically a controlling role at the end of the day. So it's, as I said, a couple of hours per month, perhaps a day. That's it.
I think it's all really something how it correlates with your current role. Yeah, if you like a Scrum Master, for example, that perfectly fits in that role. Yeah, if you're a developer, then it's something out of the box, so you probably need more time for this.
Further question from my side. Thanks from my side for the great insights of this project. Andreas, you mentioned it. You changed from a quarterly cycle to a 4-month cycle. What was the moment where you recognized, okay, the typical in literature, this description to start with a quarterly cycle is not working? What were the problems, and yeah, what was the moment?
I think one reason was why we changed it. You saw it was between the years, yeah, and the plan that we originally had was that the cycle would end in December and the new cycle would start in January. And we saw that it's not a good idea, because I mean, besides holidays, it's also busy time, especially also for one of the business areas. Yeah, they really had a lot of busy time there, and I think that was one reason that we shifted away from the year's end. Yeah, and we even, I'm not sure if you have saw it, the cycle where we changed it. It even took more than 4 months, because we added 2 weeks additionally, because we needed more time for preparation that really get started in a better way, so to say. Yeah. You have other reasons now why?
No, I think that was one of the main reasons. With mountain business, we're just, Q4 is just crazy and for everyone. So I think that was just about stretching the whole a bit.
And it just fits better, I think, now to also the pace that the company has. Yeah.
And maybe one more thing to add also to your question earlier. I mean, it's not that we're just preparing, right? We're not stopping the business. We are continuing to work on the OKRs of the current cycle while preparing the next ones. So that also needs to be kept into account.
So just looking at the time, I would say maybe we also have 2 questions online, so maybe we can also then answer them. But other than that, I would suggest that we move this conversation to the lunch break. I think there's way more questions to answer, so maybe we can also quickly have now a look at the online question, and then we can finish this here, because then we're going to the next round. But I'm sure, yeah, we will have more time.
We are here the whole day. So.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Thank you.
Who has the online questions?
The online questions?
I thought you see them as well, but I can read them.
We're offline.
Then I will quickly read it out. It's, are you doing individual performance management in parallel, and how do you deal with bonus employees?
Yes, we do. On certain levels. So management level and upwards, or expert level and upwards, has still individual targets. For the moment, they're not competing as much as you would expect, because our OKRs are team goals. So they are, we know from some salespeople, for example, that they are essentially also using OKRs or enjoying OKRs because it helps them also to reach their individual goals. So they prepare certain structures, they work on the business in a way that also makes their life obviously better, which is the whole point of it. It's not completely defined out, but so far it's not that it's competing as crazy as you would expect it to be. I hope this answers the question online.
Thank you. There's